I am Bama John. Today is Sunday, June 22nd, 2025, in the year of our Lord. And today we're going to do another rewind, relook episode of an Alabama game from the 2024 season. On this episode, we're going to look specifically at the Vanderbilt upset win over Alabama, and you cannot hyperbolize on what a stunning upset this was. You can't underplay that. It was a stunning upset for Alabama to lose to Vanderbilt. It really started the downfall of the Alabama season as Alabama opened 4-0 and had a big win over Georgia and was ranked number one and looked to be a lock to make it to the playoffs. And then things came unraveled against Vanderbilt. And then they had two more losses later in the season, and Alabama ultimately misses making the playoff. Just a stunning loss for Alabama and really hurt their season. Quickly, we have now over 1,000 subscribers to our YouTube channel, and we're still growing. We thank you, listeners. Keep listening. We hope you're enjoying our content, and please continue to access our content, listeners, wherever you can, whether it's on the YouTube channel, on Apple, on Amazon Music, on iHeart, Spotify, podcast, RSS. We appreciate your listening, and thank you much. Now we're going to jump into this stunning upset that Vanderbilt had over Alabama. Just a stunning game. So let me preface this by letting you listeners know that I grew up a Vanderbilt fan. I'm born and raised, Bama John is born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee. Both of my parents attended Vanderbilt. I grew up from the time I can remember going to Vanderbilt football and basketball games, so I've always rooted for Vanderbilt. And in the 70s and 80s, I saw many Alabama teams come into Vanderbilt and at Dudley Field and Vanderbilt Stadium and just beat Vanderbilt silly. So it's very stunning as someone who grew up a Vandy fan, and I still root for Vanderbilt. So I had very mixed emotions about Vanderbilt winning this game. I was very happy for Vanderbilt. But as an Alabama fan that knew Vanderbilt had no chance to make the playoffs and that Alabama losing to Vanderbilt really hurt their chances, it was just very troubling that Alabama went up to Vanderbilt, wasn't ready to play, loses this game, and that ultimately ends up being the loss that assures that they do not make the playoffs. Certainly, had they beaten Oklahoma or had they beaten Tennessee, they still would have gotten in. But this really started the downfall of the season and was the first nail in the coffin that keeps Alabama out of the playoffs. So it was just stunning. And just to let you all know, I was listening to this game on the radio. I was not watching it live. I was in the process of moving my daughter from New Orleans, Louisiana, up to Huntsville, Alabama to get her established as she began her dental practice. So I had to listen to this as we're moving her on the radio. So it was just stunning from the start to hear Vanderbilt come out and take the opening kickoff and go down the field and put 7 points on the board and take the lead. Then for them to come up with a pick six and take a 13-0 lead, I was stunned. But I'm like, Vanderbilt's going to pull a Vanderbilt. Alabama's going to pull this out. They're going to win. But I was wrong. And so as this game unfolded and as Vanderbilt ultimately got the big upset, then tore down the goalpost, marched it down Broadway all the way to the Cumberland River, through the goalposts in the Cumberland River. Vanderbilt went nuts. It was their biggest win in program history, no doubt about it. And it was the first time they had beaten Alabama in 40 years. Stunningly, in 1984, when I was a freshman at the University of North Carolina, and by the way, all you listeners, for those who care about my background, born and raised Nashville, Tennessee, grew up a Vandy fan, went to the University of North Carolina, became a Tar Heel fan, and I am an Alabama fan by marriage, and I have lots of family members that are Alabama grads, and I've come to love and root for Alabama and really enjoyed watching the whole of the Saban era, loving the Nate Oates era and the Kalen DeBoer era. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes, but I was stunned. So it had been 40 years since Vanderbilt had beaten Alabama, and they did it 40 years ago. And for this to happen, all I can say is Alabama was not prepared for what Vanderbilt threw at them. They were coming off the big high. They thought Vanderbilt was just going to be a walkover win, and they were wrong. And Saban never let his teams walk into a game this unprepared, this unmotivated. He was on them all the time because he knew letdowns could happen. And after a big win over Georgia, and especially when Alabama really struggled in the second half against Georgia, they needed a wake-up call. And unfortunately, the wake-up call happened not during the game, but after the game, after they lose 40-35. Credits to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt played great. Alabama had a lot of mistakes, and a lot of things were revealed in this game that ended up being the undoing of this team, and why this team couldn't contend for a natty, and why they didn't make the playoffs. There's just a lot of things that were revealed, and Alabama's going to have to fix these problems if they want to win a national championship, and they're going to have to be better in 2025 than they were in 2024, when line play was an issue, when discipline on defense and doing your job on defense, losing containment, blowing coverage was a problem. Penalties were a problem. And then from the quarterback position, you had a quarterback that was boom or bust. Either he'd run it for a big play and they make a big play, or you'd get nothing. On offense, when it was a passing down, he would scramble for a big play, or he'd take a sack, a loss, or even worse, a safety, throw a pick, or he'd throw a big over-the-top touchdown on a big explosive play. But really in this game, you could see how Alabama could not move the chains. There were just lots and lots of things that were revealed in this game that were problems throughout the season. I will say the defense does get better through the season, and ended the season being very strong, although still their ability to stop the run was questionable. The defense got much better, was more disciplined. Special teams were a problem. They were a problem in this game. Special teams remained a problem throughout the year. And then the offensive problems were really the undoing, and particularly the inconsistency at the quarterback play and the big boom or bust of the offense. They did not have the ability to put together 10, 12, 15 play drives and pick up 3, 5, 7, 8 yards at a time. Most of their first downs were on big explosive plays, not on 3rd and 8, being able to hit an 11-yard pass or hit 6 yards on 3rd down and get it to 4th and short, and then convert on 4th and short. That was just not what this Alabama offense was about. And it was a problem, and it was their undoing. So let's really jump into this game. Couple of things that I want to note is that Vanderbilt controlled the ball in this game. They had the ball 42 minutes compared to Alabama having the ball 17 minutes. And to put that in perspective, Tua's last year playing at Alabama before he got hurt and got knocked out of the season, Alabama went up to actually, this was not Tua's last year. This was the year that they won the national championship and beat Georgia. Alabama went up to Vanderbilt, and Alabama beat Vanderbilt 66-0 at Vanderbilt. And Alabama took the ball over with a 66-0 lead with 11 minutes to go. And Alabama proceeded in that game in, I believe it was 2018, to push the ball all the way down the field and march the ball. And I think they got the ball on their own 10-yard line and marched it down to the Vanderbilt 2-yard line and ran out the clock and ran out the game without scoring. That was an impressive Alabama, just picking up 3, 4, 5 yards at a time, first downs, milking the clock. They ran 11 minutes off the clock to end the game without scoring. That is really, really hard to do. This Alabama team was not capable of putting together a 7-minute drive, let alone 11-minute drive, and just march the ball down the field in 11, 15, 20 play drive. That was just not this Alabama's ability to run the ball in short yardage, to pick up yardage in short and intermediate, or even 3rd and long in the passing game, to pick up intermediate yards and then get it to 4th and short and convert. This Alabama team, they just were not good at doing that against quality opponents, and it was really tough. Also, 3rd down efficiency. Vanderbilt converted 12 of 18 3rd downs. That is amazing execution by Vanderbilt. Poor execution by the Alabama defense, not having discipline, not knowing their assignments, allowing the quarterback to pick up first downs on runs, allowing him to find receivers that came open, or that he had a little daylight and threw it in there and they made the catches. Alabama's defense was ineffective on third down, and it really killed Alabama in this. There were some drives where they had to get a stop and they couldn't do it. And that first drive was just typical of what Vanderbilt was able to do all day long, which is put together long drives, kill the clock, and put points on the board. And a lot of times they were touchdowns. It was just an amazing, shocking thing to see happen. Growing up a Vanderbilt fan, I expect Vanderbilt to play poorly, to lose, and not to be able to play a flawless game like they did in this game. And I expect Alabama, knowing how good they are and being an Alabama fan, but also having watched Alabama beat Vanderbilt many, many times, I expected Alabama to figure out a way to pull this out, and they couldn't do it. They were just not good enough, not disciplined enough, not able to execute. It was crazy. Vanderbilt had 33 more plays than Alabama, and they had multiple long drives where they picked up many first downs and were able to kill the clock. Just crazy. I was just shocked that this happened. So let's talk about some other things. Alabama had costly turnovers. They had 2 key turnovers by Jalen Milroe. One was a pick six. Another one was a strip sack fumble. And those two, the pick six and also the strip sack, led to 13 Vanderbilt points that were very costly. The pick six got Alabama behind 13-0. The strip sack fumble gave Vanderbilt a short field, and then they were able to convert for another touchdown. So very costly turnovers by Alabama, and Vanderbilt had no turnovers. Alabama also had 6 penalties for 57 yards, including some back-breaking flags that extended a Vanderbilt scoring drive and led to 2 first downs, and Vanderbilt got 7 points on that right at the end of the half, which was really, really costly for Alabama. We'll talk more about that later. And then from the Alabama defense, they got no sacks and they had no takeaways. And Diego Pavia was able to fool them. He ran the triple option, was able to pick up key first downs, both running the ball and by making timely passes, pinpoint passes, perfect execution, able to make the short intermediate passes that Jalen Milroe really was not effective at doing all season. So it was just crazy. And then there was a big contrast in the offensive execution. Alabama made big explosive plays, but could not put together long, sustained drives. It was either big play or bust, and Vanderbilt used a short passing game, run-heavy game, clock-controlling approach to be able to control the time of possession and to ultimately beat Alabama in a shocking upset, which I would say is probably the biggest win in Vanderbilt football history and probably the most shocking loss in Alabama football history. It was just amazing thing to watch, and I had real mixed emotions. Growing up a Vandy fan, really happy for Vanderbilt. Being an Alabama fan and by marriage and wanting Alabama to make the playoffs, knowing Vanderbilt couldn't, it was a big bummer. And just a sign of issues that would show themselves again in the UT game, in the South Carolina game, even in the Auburn game, in the loss at Oklahoma, and in the Michigan game. You would see all these problems, and a lot of them did not get fixed in the season, so they have to be fixed by Alabama's coaching staff so that we don't get a repeat of these issues in 2025. So now let's jump into the drives. Let's talk about the drives that happen. Vanderbilt comes out on the first drive, and Vanderbilt goes 75 yards in 10 plays to score on a 7-yard touchdown run to take the lead 7-0. Vanderbilt took a lot of time off the clock in those 10 drives, and it was just shocking. You would expect Vanderbilt to go 3 and out, not to go 75 yards in 10 plays and put a touchdown on the board and take the lead 7-0. Bama comes out on their first drive, has 3 plays that resulted on third down in a Milroe tipped pass where he was under pressure, and Milroe gets a tipped pass, and it ends up being a pick six for Vanderbilt to score. Vanderbilt misses the extra point, but now Vanderbilt's up 13-0, and you're like, what is going on here? Is Alabama really in trouble? But it's still in the first quarter, and you're just thinking this can't possibly happen. Alabama's going to wake up. Vanderbilt's going to realize they're overmatched, that they're playing against a better team, and they're going to lose. And Bama comes out on their second drive. They go 75 plays for 7 yards. They score on an 8-yard Jalen Milroe run, and all of a sudden it's 13-7. Vanderbilt's still got the lead, but you're thinking, all right, Bama's showing up. They're ready to. They're now awake. They're ready to roll, and they're going to win this game. And by the way, this drive was marked by 2 big explosive plays. One was a 46-yard pass from Milroe to C.J. Dupree, and then there was another 17-yard pass from Milroe to Josh Cuevas to get Vanderbilt to the to get Alabama to the Vanderbilt 9-yard line, and then Miller runs it in from there. Again, though, that drive was not a clock eater. It had 2 big explosive plays that led to Bama getting in the red zone. Then Bama punches it in 7-0 to get us 7 points, and now it's 13-7 Vanderbilt. But you're thinking, all right, Alabama's awake. They're ready to go. Then Vanderbilt comes out. They go 17 plays for 75 yards. I'm going to repeat that. 17 plays for 75 yards to score and to take a 20-7 lead over Alabama. They eat 10 minutes off the clock. Vanderbilt picks up 5 first downs on the drive. They score on a 1-yard run, but they get 2 first downs on penalties. The first one is on 4th and 4, and it's a punting situation. And this is a coaching special teams mistake that cannot happen. They get an illegal substitution as you had Jalen Milroe, not Jalen Milroe, I'm sorry. You had Ryan Williams in the game, and also you had Malachi Moore in the game. Both wear number 2, and they're on the field at the same time, and they give up a first down to Vanderbilt to keep the drive alive. Unbelievable. That cannot happen. Inexcusable, terrible. And so Vanderbilt's drive is alive on a penalty that just cannot happen. I cannot overstate the fact that that's inexcusable. That is a coaching mistake. To me, if your special teams coach keeps making those kind of mistakes and is not aware of that, he cannot continue to be your coach. You're going to have to replace him. Terrible mistake. And then you get up another Vanderbilt first down on a face mask by Jahad Campbell. Face mask, you're trying to make a play, you're trying to grab the player, but you cannot commit that. So they give up 2 first downs on penalties. Vanderbilt punches it in 20-7. And it's just like, here we go. Alabama's in trouble. Alabama comes out on their 3rd drive. Alabama goes 3 and out. Milroe goes incomplete on the first down. He takes a 3-yard sack loss on the second down, holds on to the ball too long, and can't find anybody open. Again, it's those short intermediate passes. He gets pressure, can't make anything happen, takes the sack. This will be a repeated issue for Milroe all year. And then on 3rd down, he throws an incomplete pass on 3rd and 13, and Bama punts the ball, and Vandy gets the ball back. Vanderbilt gets the ball back. They go 8 plays for 26 yards, get in field goal range, kick a field goal, take a 20-3, 7 lead. Bama does stop the Vandy offense in terms of not letting him get a field goal, but Vanderbilt picks up 2 first downs, comes away with a field goal. Vanderbilt's up 23-7. And at this point in the first half, I am really aware that Alabama is in bad shape, and it's not looking good for them, and they're in real trouble. But Bama comes back out, down 23-7. They go 83 yards in 9 plays to score on a Jalen Milroe 3-yard run, but it was highlighted by a 32-yard run by Jalen Milroe to put Alabama in the red zone, and then Alabama on 4th down scores and takes a 23-14 lead. And, again, one explosive play gets them down the field. They probably have their most effective drive in terms of picking up multiple first downs. They did get 4 first downs on that drive, and I apologize. They did not score on 4th down. The Jalen Milroe run was not on 4th down, but they did get 4 first downs on this drive. They go 83 yards. They punch it in. It's 23-14. And then Vanderbilt comes out on the last drive of the half. They go 6 plays for 33 yards. They run the clock down to 3 seconds, punt the ball. Alabama gets the ball back, does nothing. Vanderbilt's up 23-14, up 9 at half. And Alabama's really in trouble. Vanderbilt has control of the game, but you just don't believe that Vanderbilt can have this type of effort in the second half. You keep thinking Alabama's going to figure Vanderbilt's defense out and be able to put things together and win the game. But Alabama's in a big hole at halftime. Come out in the second half, Alabama gets the ball. They go 5 plays for 53 yards, and Milroe scores on a 14-yard touchdown run. Bama did take the kickoff back, had a great return to get the ball to the Alabama 47-yard line. So a great kickoff return puts Alabama in a short field. They go 53 yards, they score it, and it's 23-21 Alabama. And now you're thinking, here we go. Alabama's found the mojo. They went in, made halftime adjustments. They're ready to roll. Alabama's going to do what they should do, which is beat Vanderbilt, assert their dominance, and go home with a hard-fought victory. But then Vanderbilt comes out on their first drive. It's 9 plays for 25 yards. They punt, and Alabama gets the ball back, but they're pinned on their own 4-yard line. But you're still thinking, all right, Alabama's held Vanderbilt, and they really had struggled to hold them and make Vanderbilt have to punt the ball. But you're like, good, they made them punt the ball. Okay, so we got the ball deep in our own territory. We'll just run 3 plays, move the ball out from near the goal line, and get into better field position. And we're primed to go from 23-21 to at least come out with the field goal, if not a touchdown, and take the lead. But it doesn't work out that way. Vanderbilt's got Bama pinned on the 4-yard line. Bama goes 3 and out and has to punt. But even worse, on first down, Alabama only gains 1 yard. Milroe has an incomplete pass on second down, second and short, or second and 9, but still can't do anything. You pick up 3, 4, 5, 6 yards, you're in good shape on third down, and it's an incomplete pass. Milroe's inability to be effective in the short intermediate passing game rears its ugly head, and then on third down, Milroe completes a pass for the first down, but he was scrambling under pressure from Vanderbilt, and he crossed the line of scrimmage before throwing the ball, and it was an illegal forward pass, so it's loss of down, and Bama has to punt to Vanderbilt. So again, Milroe's failure to execute in critical third down plays makes a bad mistake, and he had made those mistakes previously, and it costs Alabama, and they give Vanderbilt good field position for the next drive. So Bama punts. Vanderbilt on drive 6 starts at the Alabama 45-yard line, and Vanderbilt scores quickly, 45 yards in 4 plays on a Pavia pass to Sherrill for 36 yards on a 4th and 1. It's a 4th and 1 play. Alabama's bowing up the defense. They load the line of scrimmage. They blow coverage. Sherrill's wide open. Alabama bites, loses discipline, loses coverage, and now Vandy has a 30-21 lead, and Alabama, again, is in trouble. Bama comes out, has a 7-yard drive, goes 75 yards in 4 plays, and scores on a 56-yard pass from Milroe to Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams had a couple of big plays in this game, but overall they did not do a good job of scheming it up and getting the ball in Ryan Williams' hands in key plays. But Bama scores again, and now the lead is Vandy 30-28. This would be the closest that Alabama would get the rest of the way in the game. And again, at this point, you're thinking Vanderbilt's in trouble. Alabama's going to assert their dominance, but that does not happen. Next drive, Vanderbilt gets the ball on their own 7-yard line. Or actually, this is Vandy drive 7. They go 60 yards in 9 plays, and it ends with Vanderbilt getting a field goal to take a 5-point lead, 33-28 lead. And now we're down to 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Vanderbilt has a 5-point lead. And kudos to Vanderbilt for being able to go 60 yards in 9 plays, convert the field goal, take a 5-point lead. Alabama's in a hole again. Alabama comes out. They go 3 yards. They have 3 plays in 28 yards, and it ends up with Alabama fumbling. And what happened here is Milroe has a strip sack fumble that Vanderbilt's able to recover on their 47-yard line, and it's really a mix of poor pass protection and also poor ball protection by Milroe. Holds on to the ball too long, tries to do too much, and he gets sacked. He gets stripped. Vanderbilt gets the ball, turns it over. So with Vanderbilt up 5, they take over the ball at the Vanderbilt 47, and Vanderbilt scores a TD on 53-yard play drive, going 7 plays, and they end up scoring on a Pavia 6-yard pass for a touchdown. So now Vandy is up 40-28 with 5 minutes left in the game. So that time elapsed where Vanderbilt had taken a lead 33-28. There were more than 10 minutes left in the game, and so another 5 minutes were eaten up on the clock. So Vanderbilt gets the ball back with 5 minutes to go for this next drive, and they're down 12 points, 40-28. Alabama is able to go 75 yards in 8 plays to score on a Ryan Williams 2-yard run on 4th down. Bama picks up 47 yards on a Milroe pass to Jeremy Bernard. So this is the great thing about this explosive Alabama offense and big play Alabama offense is they're able to move the ball downfield quickly when they're able to hit these big plays. So they score, and Vanderbilt is now up 40-35 with 2:47 to go. But given Vanderbilt's ability to control the clock and pick up first downs, Alabama's in trouble. So Vanderbilt gets the ball on this last drive, and they're actually able to run out the clock on a 7-play drive going 54 yards. Vanderbilt converts 3 first downs. One of the first downs is converted on a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct with 1:10 to go, and that ends the game. Vanderbilt probably was going to kill the clock anyway, even had that unsportsmanlike penalty not happened, but that was just a killer. Game over. Vanderbilt wins. And just a shocking loss for Alabama Crimson Tide and really puts them in a hole. So let's talk about some things that came out of this game. Alabama's offensive line was exposed. They struggled in pass protection. They struggled in run blocking. Jalen Milroe was able to throw for 310 yards, but only on 18 passes, and he made critical errors, including a pick 6 and a strip sack fumble. And Alabama's defense loaded the line, made sure that Milroe was not able to beat them either on scramble plays in the passing game or on design runs. They loaded up the line and said, we're not going to let Milroe beat us with his legs. We're also not going to let Milroe hit many big plays over the top, although he did get a big play to Ryan Williams for a score. We're going to force Milroe to throw short, intermediate passes, and we don't think he's accurate enough to be able to pick our defense apart and go down the field, Tom Brady-esque style, and pick up 3, 5, 7, 8-yard pass plays at a time, go down the field, and score consistently. And they proved out to be right. It showed that Alabama's got a one-dimensional offense. They lacked consistent short intermediate passing game, and also their run game was not effective. They were not able to come up with design run plays or design play action passes when the line was loaded against the run to make Vanderbilt pay for loading up the line. And believe me, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Michigan looked at this tape, saw what Vanderbilt did, and put their defensive schemes to good use to deal Alabama future losses in the season. Coaching-wise, Vanderbilt outcoached Alabama. Unbelievable for that to happen. For Clark Lee to outcoach Kalen DeBoer is just crazy. Clark Lee is a defensive coach, and he outcoached him, and then he brought in Diego Pavia and the new OC that was running the Vanderbilt offense, and Alabama's defense was not prepared for what Vanderbilt ran and couldn't stop them as Vanderbilt put 40 points on the board, and their offense was able to control the game and really make Alabama's defense look vulnerable. Here are key takeaways. Vanderbilt dominated the time of possession. They pressured Milroe and forced him to make short throws, which he was not good at. They loaded the line of scrimmage to contain Milroe. They did that effectively. They were very disciplined and did not turn the ball over and did not make a bunch of penalties. So Vanderbilt played a very clean game. Alabama, on the other hand, a lot of penalties, turnovers, missed assignments on defense, missed blocking assignments. It was just not a well-played, well-executed game on the Alabama side. Hats off to Vanderbilt. Tough one for Alabama. So now let's dig into these stats, which are really telling for why Vanderbilt won. Vanderbilt had 26 first downs to Alabama's 17. Let me repeat that. Vanderbilt, 26 first downs, Alabama 17. Unbelievable. I mean, you just don't expect that for Vanderbilt to be able to do that, and they did that, and they won. Vanderbilt was 12 for 18, 67% conversion rate on third downs. Alabama was only 3 for 6, 50% conversion rate, but they just weren't effective on third down or even getting to key third downs where they had a chance to convert it. Fourth down efficiency, both teams converted on 1 fourth down each. Total yards, Vanderbilt 418, Alabama 394. Shocking that Vanderbilt outgains Alabama. Alabama does outgain Vanderbilt 310 to 255 in the passing game, but those pass plays didn't eat up much clock. And even though Alabama was able to score, the fact that Vanderbilt was able to outgain them overall, and particularly in the running game, was one of the reasons why Vanderbilt had 26 first downs to Alabama, and why they dominated time of possession, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Interceptions. Alabama had 1 interception, Vanderbilt no interceptions. Rushing yards, Vanderbilt 166 rushing yards to Alabama 84. Are you kidding me? When is the last time a Nick Saban team was dominated on the ground by a team like Alabama? Just shocking. Vanderbilt had 54 rushing attempts, Alabama 21. Maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe Alabama didn't feel like they could run the ball. Maybe they didn't call enough run plays. Whatever it is, Vanderbilt dominated the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, was able to run the ball effectively. Vanderbilt 166 yards to Alabama's 88. Alabama had six penalties for 57 yards. Vanderbilt only had 3 penalties for 20. Very much a clean sheet for Vanderbilt all the way around. Turnovers, Alabama 2. 1 interception, pick 6 for a touchdown. 1 fumble that was deep in their own territory that led to a short field for another Vanderbilt touchdown. Vanderbilt had no turnovers. And then the biggest thing, Vanderbilt chewed up the clock. 42 minutes. They possessed the ball 42 minutes versus Alabama only having the ball 18 minutes. Again, are you kidding me? Those stats tell the story. Really rough game for Alabama. Came in off the Big Georgia victory and played like they were hungover, and they got beat. Vanderbilt came in, biggest win of the program's history. Amazing performance. They played very clean, better execution, better game plan, better coaching, no turnovers. Just amazing. And those things that we saw that were problems in this Vanderbilt loss for Alabama reared their ugly heads again. Inability to stop a good running game. Milroe's inconsistency, big player bust, making untimely turnovers, taking untimely sacks, holding on to the ball too long, not being willing to throw the ball away effectively, running across, scrambling, and then going across the line of scrimmage and then passing the ball. Again, horrible mistake. And then Alabama not being able to have a effective short intermediate pass game really hurt Alabama, because if you were able to do that, you could loosen up the defense and be more effective in the run game. But the defenses in 2024 that were really paying attention loaded the line of scrimmage, pressured Milroe, put a 5-6 man rush on him to hurry him. They weren't worried about him being able to effectively pick them apart in the short intermediate passing game, and then don't give up big plays over the top. And load the line of scrimmage so that Milroe can't be effective in the run game. And then if you're loading the line of scrimmage for that, you're probably going to be able to shut down the running backs, because Alabama's line did not prove to be a bulldozing line that could pick up 3, 4, 5 yards at a time when needed. How much of that was scheme versus how much of that was just the inability of the line to bulldoze teams, debatable. But those issues. And then on defense, lack of discipline, untimely penalties to give up first downs, losing containment, being undisciplined and allowing receivers to come unopen because of the eye candy that the triple option offers you, where it's easy to watch the ball and not cover your man and not do your job. And then guys get open on third down, fourth down, and you give up big plays, you give up big first downs, and you end up losing. So tough game. Things that are going to have to be corrected if Alabama wants to make the playoffs in this upcoming season. They're going to have to be better, and they cannot have games like that. Anyway, this has been a rewind, relook at the Vanderbilt win over Alabama. Alabama's tough loss, worst loss of the season. The UT loss, bad loss. Oklahoma, bad loss. Really, arguably as bad a loss as Vanderbilt, because it knocked them out of the playoffs, and Oklahoma wasn't having a great season. And then the bowl loss to Michigan, which was in some ways a meaningless loss because Alabama wanted to be in the playoffs, and a bowl game is a consolation, and losing that, you can argue that. But anyway, what looked to be a great, promising season goes up in flames as Alabama loses to Vanderbilt in a shocking, stunning loss. Great win for Vanderbilt. The Vanderbilt fan in me, super happy. The Alabama fan in me, very unhappy, very disappointed. And that's been our rewind, relook at the Alabama loss to Vanderbilt. This is the Bamature Hour. I'm Bamature John. We'll talk to you again soon. Next time we will come back and talk to the Alabama win over South Carolina, where they escape and barely beat South Carolina, and was a game they easily could have lost. And that game, again, exposed more flaws in this Alabama team and more issues that are going to need to be fixed for the 2025 season if this Bama team wants to make the playoffs, if they want to contend for a natty, and certainly if they want to win the national championship. They're going to have to be better, but have enjoyed being here. God bless. Roll Tide.